Hi everyone. So the video I'm going to do right now was requested by one of my viewers. She sent me a video of someone talking about another country and why they moved there, how they moved there, all of that kind of stuff. So I've decided to do a video on the questions that were asked. So let's start out with, was this the first country we're thinking of to move to? The answer is no. We thought about Costa Rica, and that's really where we wanted to go. We also thought about moving to Texas, but we decided that the States was maybe not the greatest place to go to, as I kind of had a feeling there might be a war in the next little while. And I'm glad we didn't move to Texas, although I had a job there in real estate lined up with Keller Williams. We weren't sure if Matt was going to be able to get a work permit there or a visa, so that was out of the picture. Then we had friends moving to Costa Rica. We had wanted to move to Costa Rica, but we realized it was really expensive to get residency there. When I looked into it, you had to have quite a significant amount of money for land purchase, which made it easier for you to get residency, and it wasn't always positive that it was a Spanish-speaking country, because I know very little. Matthew knows none at all, and he's not really good with other languages. So then why Belize? Belize was kind of shown to me by a good friend of mine named Grant. He had stayed here for a while. He loved it. So we decided to dig into it. Now it's changed a lot, I think, since he was here. But we realized it was a country that was part of the Commonwealth, so it made it easier for Canadians to move here and cheaper than Americans. And we liked that it was an English-speaking country because, like I said, we're horrible at other languages. Also, they do speak Mayan here and Creole and Spanish, because we get a lot of people that come over from Guatemala and live here. But pretty much everyone speaks English, so that was great. We also realized that land was super cheap when we bought. It's since tripled in price, so that's a downfall for anyone who's moving here now. However, it's still pretty cheap. I was just speaking with some of our friends in the Mennonite community, and they are actually leaving because they're moving to Mexico, because they find land is too expensive here now for them, but they're also buying like thousands of acres to create a community on. So anyone who's moving here now, yeah, it's going to be a bit more expensive, and it's becoming more and more popular. You can find plenty of articles that have just been released this year about the last year of tourism here and how it's jumped. So I have a really strong feeling that this is going to become like a Bahamas in the next few years. So moving here, what do you have to do to get residency? Well, we haven't gone through the whole process yet, so I can't give a great detailed experience because we're only halfway through. But so far, what we have dealt with is every month we have to pay 200 Belize per person, so that's 100 American. If you're a Canadian, I'm sure you can convert it. So 200 a month per person, even for our 8-year-old daughter, which kind of sucks. There are different ways to get around that. You can create a business, which we have done. Then you can pay an upfront for the year price, and it ends up being a little bit cheaper. And say you have a business here and the person who owns the business has a child. Well, you can have your child, as long as they're going to school here, have a student visa. Then you don't have to pay that at all for the month, or for each month. Tricky to get those things. Very time consuming because the government here is extremely slow with everything. And they're a bit crooked. So let's move on to the government. The government here is very slow at doing everything. It's so old school. When you go into the passport office to pay your $200 a month here in PG, You have to walk across the road and pay in the treasury office, and everything is done with paper. So it makes it very easy for things to go missing or for paperwork to just not be put in. So if you are buying land here, please either get a really good lawyer. There's a guy named Ryan Warble, I believe is his last name. It's horrible because he's our lawyer. I really should remember his last name. He is a really good lawyer to have. He's very expensive. But at least that way, you know, everything is getting done and taken care of. So if you are buying land here, please keep up on every month checking in where your deed is, because it can take a very long time to get your deed on your property here. We are still waiting. The land is in our name. We have all the paperwork for it. We just don't have our physical deed. Super frustrating. And so once you're done paying your $200 a month for your passport stamp, that's your extension. You have about, I think it's 9 months to a year before you can file for residency. Now for us Canadians, last time I checked, which was a year ago, it is $1,500 American per person to get your residency. So that's that. On that topic though, anyone moving here, I would really suggest you buy your property close to a passport office / port, or you will have to travel once a month to a port to get your passport stamped. I don't think a lot of Americans think about that, or Canadians think about that. We most certainly didn't think about it. We happened to luck out and buy our land in Jacinto, which is just outside of PG, about 10 minutes. PG means Punta Gorda. And we have a port there for boats, and we have a ferry that takes you over to Guatemala. So we're quite happy with where we chose, although we don't get all of the conveniences of nice stores. We're not overly close to Belmopan, which is where all of the government offices are. But it's only about 3 hours away to drive, and it's a beautiful drive. It's my favorite highway. Sorry, I get all off topic and all over the place because there's so much to talk about. So, there is another really big plus here if you're of age that you can partake in. It's the retirement program. If you hit all of the qualifications, I highly recommend it. It was a big thing that stood out to us when we initially started looking at Belize. Matt could have jumped on that bandwagon in a couple of years, but we started a business, so we are no longer eligible. But if you're looking to come somewhere and not ever have to work again, and you have, like, I don't know, enough money saved up, or you have, say, something at home that's creating an income for you, like a rental property, it's a great plus. It allows you to import things completely tax-free. That's where they get you here in Belize. Importing is insane. Taxes is just through the roof, which trickles down in the economy. So stores really have a hard time importing things because it costs so much to do so. So for instance, if you want a bag of, let's say, Lay's potato chips at the grocery store, chances are you're going to pay $10 to $14 Belize for that bag of potato chips because they had to pay a crazy import tax. If you are buying things that are local, then you don't have that problem. So it just depends on how you want to live your life. For us, we don't really do that kind of food. I make everything pretty much from scratch. So I go to our local market, which PG has a great veggie market, a meat market, and a fish market, all within like a block of each other. And everything's fresh. So we do that. We go to the grocery store for things like almond milk. Almond milk down here is like $6.75 Belize for one of those boxes. And things that we get at the grocery store can be a little bit more expensive, but it's not horrible. we eat a lot of food, like a lot of food. So it's expensive for us. I don't know if you've seen Matt, but he eats like a horse, which sucks a bit. But importing a vehicle is super expensive, so it's best to just buy one here. We were obviously driving ours down. You saw what happened with ours. We purposely bought an older vehicle because it was going to cost us a fortune to bring down, for instance, our Land Rover. So we didn't do that. And we also didn't want to stick out like a sore nail, which is super important down here. Please don't come down here acting like a jackass, flaunting everything. This is not the place to come and live and compete with the Joneses. Don't do it. It's going to get you hurt. People here are very humble, very nice. However, if you come down here flaunting all of the money and being an asshole to people, you are going to get robbed. You are probably going to get broken into. I don't want to scare people, but I mean, that happens everywhere. Canada and where we used to live in Ontario, people are getting their houses broken into and their cars broken into multiple times a day. So don't come down here acting like an ass. We have a few Americans that we've met down here that have been broken into and stabbed and robbed. So just don't do it. We haven't felt like that was going to happen to us here. I walk all over this place and take the bus by myself. I've never once felt scared. I've walked home from the bar one night in Hopkins by myself. We feel safe. But if you're naive and you move here and you're an asshole, well, you're looking for trouble. The weather here, as you can see behind me, it is always beautiful. It has a good rainy season, so that might not be a plus for some people. Good morning. I would suggest you also look at your districts because they vary. Hurricane season hits mostly the north part of the country. I would never buy land in Placencia. It's a peninsula surrounded by water. And we were there in rainy season and all of the boardwalks were flooded. Nice place to go and visit, but for someone who maybe isn't a millionaire and doesn't have a lot of money to invest in properties or to fix them if they go underwater or take a great loss, not something for us. It does get really hot here. I will say that, like around 102 in high season and like summer. We love it. We don't have an air conditioner. We just have fans. Sometimes it's a little unbearable, but there's always generally a good breeze. Working in Belize. So anyone moving here, I would really suggest you open a business. Very easy to do, but you will need a lawyer to do it. For us to get our business license with our lawyer, it was about $2,400 American. You have to re-register every year. That's about $300, $500 American to do with your lawyer. With owning a business here, it makes it easy to get a bank account, especially if you own property. So that's 2 pluses to get a bank account here if you want to do that. We have our Canadian bank account still, but we have just one here to do general transactions and stuff. Owning a business here, like I said earlier, it makes it easier for you to get your residency, bank account, and you can give yourself a work visa. It gets complicated. There are labor offices. You would have to make a portal with their labor board, and then the person that owns the business can submit a worker for a work visa. So we're going through that process right now. For me to have my work visa here, I will get back to you in the future when that's all fully completed. And with that, you can have a child as a student visa as long as they're going to school here. We originally had Ava in school here. I've taken her out. She's back homeschooling because the school wasn't very good here. So we can no longer do that. So we have to continue paying the $200 a month for her to get her passport stamped. There are many missing puzzle pieces here for industry. So I would really suggest people start a business here. If you can find that missing piece, it will make you money. There are contractors needed here. There are electricians needed here. There are plumbers needed here. There are engineers needed here. There are doctors needed here. There's a lot needed here. So if you are a professional in any of those industries, plus many other industries, I would really suggest it. Anyone that is looking to open up like a franchise McDonald's, I think would do great here. This is like one of the only countries I think in the entire world that doesn't have one. Restaurants would be good in resort areas, things like that. Just come visit, you'll find the missing pieces really, really fast. When you come here, I would really suggest you travel the different districts because they are very different. If you are Canadian, you know what different provinces are like. Ontario is very different to BC. Very similar here. We chose Toledo because we wanted to live very raw. Down here it's called the Forgotten District, and that is for a reason. You can get away with quite a bit here in terms of permits and stuff like that because the rules aren't really enforced here. Why we moved to the Toledo district is because we wanted to be close to the ocean. We also wanted to have quite a bit of land. We wanted to buy land that was cheaper, and we wanted to grow our food. We chose the most perfect place for all of those things because we are close to the ocean. Our soil on our property is really good for growing. It's very lush here. And there's also no really bad hurricanes here. We also have the streams, the mountain/hills, the caves, freshwater springs, the list goes on. The only other place I would consider living in Belize would be like the San Ignacio area or the Cayo area. Although they are not close to the ocean, the soil is really good and you're closer to Belmopan, which is the major hub where all of the government offices are. If you are looking for property here to buy and then maybe build a house and then sell it, that would also be a really good industry to get into because there is no capital gains here. When you list property, we have a friend who works for Century 21. The commission is 8% with them, and then you have to pay, I think it's 12.5% on the taxes paid to them. And like I said, no capital gains. And the tourism board has released a number of studies done and showing the increase of tourism here. There are a lot of Americans and Canadians moving here. A lot of super rich celebrities moving here, buying islands, the list goes on. Is it expensive? I think I touched upon this. Yes, it can be pretty expensive if you're buying things that aren't local. The key here is local. Stay local. Local, local, local. The Mennonites pretty much grow all of the food for the area. We happen to live a half hour to 40 minutes away from a Mennonite community called Pine Hill. I've made some friends in there with the horses, so that benefits us. If you have animals, getting a vet here is nearly impossible. So make sure you come prepared to either drive really far to get to a half-assed vet or take care of your own vet needs. We do have a medical clinic around the corner from us. It is ran by Americans. Getting medication here for us so far has been really easy, but we don't really have any medical issues. So any more questions, please feel free to reach out and I'll try and answer them for you guys.